The Buddha points out 12 types of people who suffer the most, are haunted by bad luck, and bear heavy karmic consequences. Dear friends, in this life, everyone will experience moments of suffering, deadlock, and unease. Some people, from childhood to adulthood, are loved wherever they go, supported by benefactors, and live a smooth, fortunate life. But there are others who, no matter how hard they try, always feel as though bad luck clings to them. Nothing goes smoothly, and one sorrow follows another in an endless chain. This is a pain that's hard to put into words, especially when, later in life, looking back on the years gone by, one can only sigh in regret. Have you ever asked yourself, why am I suffering so much? Why do some people live so effortlessly, while I face one hardship after another? Is it fate, or is life simply unfair? Dear friends, the Buddha never taught us to resent fate. He taught that everything in this life has a cause and an effect. No suffering is random, and no fortune is accidental. Everything is the result of our actions, words, and thoughts from the past, sometimes in this life, sometimes from countless lives before. The Buddha once said, "To know what you did in your past life, look at your present life. To know what your future life will be, look at what you are doing today." This simple teaching carries profound wisdom. So, if your life is full of suffering now, instead of complaining, look within to understand that you are reaping the fruits of past causes and sowing the seeds for future outcomes. Today, we will explore the Buddha's teachings about the 12 types of people most likely to be burdened by karmic suffering in life. But this is not just about knowing, it's about understanding, reflecting on ourselves, and, most importantly, finding ways to transform negative karma into peace and happiness. Please open your heart and reflect with me. The first type, people who live dishonestly. In the Buddha's teachings, speech is not merely sounds from the mouth. Speech is verbal karma, one of the 3 most important types of karma in a person's life, alongside physical and mental karma. Dishonest people use words or actions to conceal the truth, embellish themselves, or harm others' trust for personal gain. They may be eloquent and persuasive, but deep down, their deception is intentional. The longer they live with this habit, the further they stray from truth and the more they lose inner peace. The Buddha taught, a liar has no virtue, and no one trusts them. When trust is lost, that person loses everything. There was once a merchant who was very successful thanks to his silver tongue. He made grand promises to customers, praising his products as the best, but in reality, they were cheap and low quality. He promised to help friends but broke his word. Even with his wife and children, he hid the truth, only saying what benefited him. While he had money and influence, he thought himself clever and wise. But over time, people saw through his lies. Customers left, friends distanced themselves, and even his family no longer trusted him. In his final days, he lived in a grand house but was utterly alone and empty. He said something that touched everyone who heard it. "I lied to gain benefits, but in the end, I lost everything." Dishonest people face 3 major karmic consequences. 1. They lose the trust of others. Once exposed, they are no longer seen as trustworthy, even if they later speak the truth. 2. They live in fear and unease, their minds torn between truth and what they must hide, never finding true peace. 3. According to the law of karma, if they continue sowing seeds of deceit, they may be reborn in lower realms, such as hungry ghosts, living in endless craving without satisfaction, or in a life of poverty, deceived by others. How to transform? Practice living truthfully in thought and speech. Avoid using words to flatter, deceive, or harm others. If you've made mistakes, have the courage to admit them, make amends, and live kindly from today onward. Remember, truthful speech is a fragrance that never fades. A sincere person may not be wealthy in money, but they will be rich in love and merit. The second type, ungrateful people. In life, many people lend us a hand in times of need, but not everyone knows how to bow in gratitude or cherish what they have. Ungrateful people live without remembering the sacrifices of their parents, without valuing others' help, and without empathy, only knowing how to complain. The Buddha taught, a grateful person is blessed, but an ungrateful person destroys their own blessings. There was a young man raised with everything he needed. He never had to toil or worry about food and clothing, but he didn't value it, always assuming his parents were obligated to provide for him. When his family fell on hard times, instead of understanding, he blamed them. "Why can't you provide for me like before?" Only when his parents were gone, and the house was silent, did he realize his loss. Looking back, he wept. "If only I had cherished them sooner." Ungrateful people face 3 types of karmic consequences. 1. they lose what they have. Blessings only stay with those who cherish them. 2. When they face difficulties, no one wants to help, as they failed to show gratitude or honor kindness in the past. 3. In future lives, they may be reborn in suffering, living in loneliness or abandonment because they lived without gratitude. How to transform. Practice saying thank you every day to family, to those who help you, to life itself. Cherish the small things: a meal, a glass of water, a roof over your head, a smile. Be filial to your parents and repay those who have helped you while you still can. Remember, a grateful person feels rich even with little. An ungrateful person, no matter how much they have, will lose it all one day. The third type, people without conscience. People without conscience live without distinguishing between good and evil, right and wrong. They will stop at nothing to achieve their desires, even if it means hurting others, deceiving, betraying, or trampling on kindness and family bonds. Such people, despite having wealth or status, live in loneliness because no one genuinely wants to be near them. The Buddha taught, a person without compassion, no matter how wealthy, is only adorned with an outer shell. Their heart knows no peace. There was a man named An who was very cunning. He knew how to win people over, but instead of using his talents for good, he used them to exploit others, borrowing money without repaying, making promises he never kept. Friends who helped him in tough times were forgotten once he prospered. While he had strength and money, he thought himself superior. But when calamity struck, no one stood by him. Alone on his sickbed, he wept and said to the nurse, "My life lacked nothing but human connection, and now I understand why." People without conscience face the following consequences. 1. They lose all valuable relationships, family, friends, colleagues, and live in isolation. 2. When they face hardship, no one helps, as they have hurt those around them. 3. They may be reborn in realms of suffering, such as hungry ghosts or animals, where there is no love or support. How to transform. Return to living with a heart full of humanity, compassion, and empathy. If you've done wrong, make amends, apologize, and compensate. Study the Buddha's teachings, practice meditation, uphold precepts, and sow seeds of compassion to transform old karma. Remember, no one is born evil, but if you don't correct yourself, that evil will lead to endless suffering. A person with conscience, though not wealthy, is loved. A person without conscience, though rich, ends up alone in loneliness. The fourth type, people who love to argue. The more they win, the more they lose. Some people always want to be right. They cannot accept others having different opinions. From big issues to small, from family to neighbors, from the dinner table to the marketplace, they argue whenever someone disagrees with them. The more they argue, the more heated it gets. The more they win, the further they drift from others. Eventually, they realize they may be right, but they are alone. The Buddha taught, the wise do not argue, for truth lies not in words, but in understanding and compassion. People who love to argue carry a large ego. This ego prevents them from stepping back, even in casual conversations. But the more they defend their ego, the more they lose the precious relationships around them. The story of an old woman in a village is a clear example. She was intelligent and quick-witted, but her love for arguing made her unapproachable. One day, she asked a monk, "Why am I always right, yet no one likes me?" The monk smiled, dropped a bit of ink into a glass of clear water, and said, "Your mind is like this glass. Every time you argue, you cloud yourself." People who argue not only cloud their own minds, but also lose the peace inherent in every person. Arguing never brings happiness. Winning an argument may mean losing in relationships, family, and the hearts of others. How to transform. To let go of this habit, start with the courage to stay silent, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom that values harmony over being right. Then, practice listening with an open heart, not to counter, but to understand. Finally, remember, life is not a stage to prove your brilliance, but a field to sow love. And love doesn't need arguments. The fifth type, people who are envious. The more jealous, the poorer in blessings. Everyone has felt a fleeting moment of envy. But if it lingers too long, it becomes a smoldering fire, burning away joy and kindness. Envious people cannot rejoice when others are praised, loved, or successful. Their hearts constantly ask, "Why do they have it, and I don't?" Instead of striving, they choose to criticize, slander, or belittle others to feel less inferior. But they don't realize that each moment of envy is a moment they destroy their own blessings. The Buddha taught, rejoicing in others' happiness enriches your own blessings. But envy dissipates blessings and creates bad karma. The story of Hai and a company is a vivid example. His hardworking colleague kept advancing. Instead of learning from him, Hai chose envy. The more he envied, the more he was shunned and fell behind. Eventually, he realized, envy doesn't bring others down, it only keeps you from rising. Envy is like a silent disease, making people negative, petty, and causing them to lose the good things they have. How to transform. To heal, start by rejoicing in others' happiness. When someone succeeds, silently congratulate them and say, I'm happy for you, and I'll strive like you. This is a blessing for them and a promise to yourself. Then, turn envy into motivation. If someone is better, instead of feeling sad, ask, how did they work hard? What can I learn? When you learn, envy fades, and wisdom and good karma grow. Envy is fire, rejoicing is water. Life is short, choose what cools the heart. The sixth type, greedy people. The more they hoard, the more they suffer. There is a unique kind of suffering, never feeling enough. Greedy people live in abundance, but always feel lacking. They have something but want more. They achieve but fear loss. They spend their lives in fear, calculation, and competition. They have everything, except peace. The Buddha said, the person who knows contentment is the richest. The person who never feels enough, even if they hold the world, remains poor. A merchant in an old story is a classic example. Gold and silver piled high, land stretched far, yet he lay awake every night, guarding his wealth like his life. In old age, he sighed, I had everything but never truly lived. Greed is a bottomless pit. The more you try to fill it, the emptier it feels. Not because you lack, but because you keep wanting more. When greed exceeds limits, it leads people to betray conscience and create bad karma. How to transform. Start with gratitude and contentment. Each morning, look at what you have: loved ones, breath in your lungs, a meal on the table. That's your blessing. Live simply. Buy less, compete less. Let go of what's unnecessary and share what you can, not just money, but smiles, help, or kind words. Giving frees the heart from greed. When you share, your heart is liberated. The greedy suffer, the content find peace. The choice lies in where you place your heart. The seventh type, lazy people. The more they procrastinate, the poorer in blessings. Some people do no wrong, but also do nothing right. They don't steal, harm, or make enemies, but they live passively, waiting and procrastinating. The Buddha taught, those who are not diligent, though wise, cannot succeed. But those who work hard, even slowly, will surpass all. Lazy people aren't just those who avoid work, but also those who avoid thinking, learning, or changing. They always have excuses to delay, blaming circumstances or fate. They sit still, watch others succeed, and complain, I'm not as lucky. But in truth, they never fully tried. The story of a rich man's son is a painful lesson. His youth was spent in leisure and sleep, fully provided for by his parents. When the family fell into ruin, he couldn't support himself. Working as a laborer, he realized, if I had studied or trained back then, I wouldn't suffer like this now. Laziness is the shortest path to poverty, not just material, but also spiritual, moral, and in blessings. Those who don't sow cannot reap. How to transform. There's no other way but diligence. You don't need grand changes. Just start small. Wake up a bit earlier, work with a bit more care, tend to your home a bit more thoroughly. Each bit builds a responsible life. Most importantly, realize time waits for no one. Today, you have health, wisdom, and opportunity. If you let it slip through laziness, tomorrow brings only regret. The diligent may be slow, but wherever they go, life blooms. The lazy stand still, watching life pass in regret. The eighth type, selfish people. The more they keep, the more they lose. In life, some people live in a closed-off way, not discreetly, but with their hearts tightly shut. They care only about their own interests, unwilling to share, give, or care about others' joys or sorrows. They live like an island, confident in their safety, but in reality, they are gradually isolating themselves from everyone. The Buddha taught, those who live for themselves are lonely. Those who live for others find happiness. Selfish people may amass wealth, possessions, or status, but they can never accumulate love. By keeping everything for themselves, they fail to realize that what they hold on to most tightly is what they lose most easily. The story of a wealthy man whose death brought no tears is a lesson worth pondering. He had everything but helped no one. When neighbors went hungry, he turned a blind eye. When family needed support, he refused. In his final days, his house was cold, his wealth fought over, and he passed away in absolute loneliness. Selfish people may not face legal punishment, but the law of karma will lead them to a life lacking human connection and happiness. In future lives, they may be born into poverty, ignored by others, because in the past, they cared for no one. How to transform? Start by giving in small ways: a kind word, a shared glance, a meal offered to someone in need. Don't think you need abundance to give. A generous heart, even with little, is rich. Remember, when you give, it doesn't disappear. It returns in another form: joy, love, or merit. The ninth type, ungrateful people. The more they complain, the more they suffer. One of the saddest things in life is failing to cherish what you have and only regretting it once it's gone. Ungrateful people don't acknowledge the efforts of their parents, teachers, or those who helped them. They focus on what's lacking, blaming circumstances or fate, unaware of the countless blessings surrounding them. The Buddha taught, ingratitude sows disconnection. Gratitude opens the door to all blessings. There was a young man whose parents provided everything, but he took it for granted. When his parents grew old and frail, he didn't care for them and even resented them for not providing as before. Only after their passing did he weep, kneeling before their photo, saying, "If only I had said thank you once." Ungrateful people often live in loneliness, as no one wants to be near someone who constantly complains. They lose what they have: relationships, jobs, friends, because they don't nurture them. By sowing discontent, they reap unhappiness. How to transform? Start by appreciating the smallest things: a meal, a laugh, a kind word, another day alive. Express gratitude through actions, not just words. Fulfill your duties to your parents, treat those who helped you kindly, and live so those who loved you never regret it. Gratitude doesn't diminish you, it elevates your character and light. The 10th type, angry people. The more they rage, the more they burn themselves. Everyone gets angry sometimes, but some let go of anger, while others hold on to it until it turns into hatred, becoming a smoldering fire that burns their own soul. The Buddha taught, anger is like holding hot coal to throw at someone else. You're the first to get burned. Angry people live in tension, easily provoked by small things: a contrary word, an unwanted action, an unforgiven memory. All can spark their fire. There was a man betrayed in business by a friend. He held on to resentment for 10 years. In that time, his betrayer lived happily with a family and career, while he remained angry, reliving pain, trusting no one, and closing his heart. Meeting a Zen master, he awoke to a single sentence: "Your friend hurt you once, but you've been hurting yourself your whole life." Anger clouds wisdom, depletes compassion, and hardens the heart. No one wants to be near someone quick to anger or radiating negativity. The more they rage, the lonelier they become. The more they resent, the further they drift from peace. How to transform? First, understand that forgiveness isn't for the other person's peace, but for your own freedom. Practice meditation, breathe slowly, and release attachment. When anger arises, say nothing. Sit, clasp your hands, and whisper, "I'm angry, but I don't want to hurt anymore." That alone is the start of transformation. The 11th type, people living in the past or fearing the future. The more they dwell, the more they lose the present. Life is a ceaseless flow, but some cling to the past, regretting, grieving, or tormented by what's gone. Others live for the future, anxious, fearful of what's yet to come. The Buddha taught, the past cannot be held, the future cannot be known. Only the present truly belongs to us. Those stuck in the past tie themselves to what's lost: a departed loved one, an unfulfilled dream, an irreparable mistake. They bind themselves with guilt. Conversely, those overly worried about tomorrow can't enjoy today. They fear illness, poverty, loneliness, or misfortune, even when the present is peaceful. A woman constantly worried about her children failing, her husband leaving, or something bad happening. She shared her nameless fears with a Zen master, who handed her a full glass of water and asked her to hold it. 10 minutes later, her arm ached. He asked, "Is the glass heavy?" She replied, "Not heavy, but holding it long makes me tired." The master smiled. Worries are the same, not heavy by nature, but holding them too long exhausts you. Those living in the past carry sadness. Those living for the future carry fear. Only in the present can we find joy, peace, and wisdom to face everything. How to transform. Practice mindfulness daily. Focus on your breath, your steps, the task at hand. When your mind drifts to the past or future, gently bring it back to the present. Don't judge or force yourself. Simply return to this moment, the only place you can live fully. The 12th type. Dishonest people. The more they conceal, the more they lose themselves. Dishonesty isn't just in words. It's in forced smiles, suspicious charm, or guarded eyes. Dishonest people live untruthfully with themselves, others, and life. They may gain temporary benefits, a relationship, an opportunity, trust, but truth is like the sun. Clouds may hide it, but not forever. The Buddha taught, a liar may fool the world, but they cannot escape karmic consequences. A merchant used every trick to build his image. He succeeded, grew wealthy, and was celebrated. But when the truth came out, he lost everything, not just wealth, but reputation, honor, and trust. And once trust is gone, nothing can buy it back. Dishonest people build a mask, eventually forgetting what's real and what's fake. They must constantly calculate, stay vigilant, and craft believable stories. But the more they do, the more exhausted and lonely they become. They don't fear others leaving. They fear not recognizing themselves anymore. How to transform. There's no other way but to live honestly in the smallest things, speak truth, act truthfully, live authentically. If you've deceived someone, apologize and make amends. If you've lived falsely, open your heart. Honesty doesn't weaken you. It makes you trustworthy, valued, and peaceful. In the end, wealth fades, power vanishes, but character remains, and character begins with truth. Dear friends, life is a fleeting journey filled with crossroads. No matter our age or experiences, we all share one thing: the search for peace in our hearts. The 12 types of people the Buddha compassionately taught about are not to blame us, but to remind us, not to make us feel guilty, but to awaken us. Sometimes, suffering doesn't come from circumstances, but from habits, tendencies, and karma we don't see. We've all erred, envied, raged, or strayed. But the wonder of life is that no path is without a turning point. No karma is unresolvable as long as we are sincere. The Buddha's teachings are always open. If today, hearing these words, your heart pauses even slightly, don't ignore it. That's a karmic connection, a wake-up call, a chance to step away from suffering and walk toward light. Start with the smallest things. A truthful word. A kind act. A moment of stillness each day. A thought of letting go of anger and greed. A heart of contentment and gratitude. Most importantly, live a life worth remembering, not for what you have, but for how you loved, gave, and awoke. In the end, the happiest person isn't the one with the most, but the one who knows contentment, letting go, love, and returning to their true self. May we all live truthfully, uphold kindness, refine our minds diligently, and transform bad karma to live a life of peace, serenity, and abundant blessings. Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to Amitabha Buddha.